Hi, my name is Gina O'Connor, and I am the Director of International Spiritual Experience. We do sacred retreats all around the world and teach workshops on different forms of healing, such as Reiki, crystal skulls, um, dowsing, meditation, yoga, and many more topics. We often go to sacred sites, and on each trip, we try to connect like-minded people, have a nice time while we um, raise our consciousness in spiritual ways. One of the ways that I wanted to talk about today, though, is a little bit about crystal skulls. As you see, I have one here, and I'm someone who considers myself to be a caretaker of crystal skulls, because no one really owns a crystal skull. That is out of respect for the being that goes along with it, just as if you wouldn't particularly own perhaps one of your pets or your house or your land. You're merely a caretaker of it, and so that gives it a certain kind of respect. The thing about crystal skulls that a lot of people don't realize is they're nothing to do really with death. I say nothing to do with death, but it is a small part of the whole cycle. In fact, they are more representative of life as a whole. So, if you look at a crystal skull, you'll see the same form that we have underneath our own skins. And this is the form that we're born with. It's the form that we mature and grow old with, and then eventually die with. And so this is what makes us all human. This is what our consciousness comes into to make us human, the skull and skeletal form. So it represents a oneness about us, what we all look like underneath. And that is beyond race, gender, age, belief systems, cultures, personalities. It's something that connects us as one. And this is really what the symbol of the crystal skull for me and most people represent. So while it is a little bit about death, it also is about life and all that's in between birth and death. So on one level, that's what crystal skulls are about, and they're not really scary. They're actually very beautiful. As you can see, the crystal is quite magnificent, and this crystal itself has a lot of healing properties to it. It's very energetic. It can act just a lot like our own brains do, our own consciousness, in that a crystal, a piece of quartz, can record information, store it, just as in your computers, crystal pieces of quartz store information, and like in your computers and on your in your radios and things like that, quartz can act like a transmitter. So they can transmit information, and they also have piezoelectric qualities to them. In other words, they can emit energetic vibrations, and when you for instance put pressure on them, it can change the electrical charge of this. And that is good for purposes of healing and things like that. So this is why a lot of people will use crystal skulls, will work with crystal skulls and have them around them in their environment. Besides that, there are many legends historically about ancient crystal skulls and Atlantis and Lemuria, about the legend of 13 crystal skulls. But it's not necessary to know all about that when you're starting out. It's not even really an interest of all crystal skull keepers. I happen to have quite a few different crystal skulls that I like to work with. Some are new and some are what you would consider to be ancient. Um, they are of all different stones, and so each different stone may have a different sort of gemological quality to it, and so it will give off a different energy. This one here is a beautiful moss agate, and moss agate, if you can see it, it's green and it has a lot of swirly patterns. It almost looks like there's moss inside this, and so therefore this green is a very healing color for nature, working with plants, and also working with different colors within your chakra system. For instance, green is very healing and connected often to your heart chakra. So it can often help you to unblock certain energetic areas that you may be holding a lot of stress in, for instance. I also work with other forms of quartz, like smoky quartz, and crystal skulls can be shaped in all different ways. It just depends on the carver. This one has a nice point to it, and some people would call this either a transmitter point, or they would call it an alien sort of shape. I've named, or I've listened, I work with the crystal skulls, I listen and meditate with them, and I often hear a name that I connect with this being, and this particular one, his name is Finn, the Rainbow Warrior. He does have a lot of rainbows within him. You can't necessarily see all these, perhaps on the camera, but there, I think you might see one there. But more than that, the essence of a rainbow warrior is someone who wants to help bring balance to the earth and help people all around the world in their different cultures and in their different expressions to bring peace and understanding amongst people. And this is a skull that I would like, that I feel likes to help in that sort of work. It's a very joyful skull. And also the property of the smoky quartz is good for grounding. So grounding is a very positive way to bring balance into your system and other people's systems that you're working with as far energetically. I also work with some ancient Mongolian skulls, and this is one called Leonid Regulus, and there's a long story about that and the Mongolian skulls, but I'm going to leave that for another time. Oftentimes the crystal skulls will work in divine partnerships, not only with you, but with other crystal skulls. And sometimes, if you're lucky enough, you may have both of those, and it's very nice when you can work with them together. They tend to bring a sense of unconditional love and balance, male-female interaction within yourself and within others. So I do like often to work with pairs, and they let me know through meditating with them.